my buddy was telling me, yeah, you should do this. So I started a LoopNet, BizBuySell, BizBend, looking at all the listings. And because failure is not an option, I wanted to make sure I got the right one. And I wanted to make sure I know the right questions to ask and what I'm looking for.
Welcome to the Before You Buy or Sell a Business podcast, where we help buyers and sellers learn more about the acquisition process, discuss recent transactions, and stay up to date on the latest news in the market. Here's your host, Jared Johnson.
All right, super excited. Today I've got Jesse on the show. We're going to talk about the business he bought. How you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Cool, no problem. So you bought a FedEx business.
I did.
Awesome. Well, maybe we can start with your background. Maybe tell us a little bit about where you grew up, if you went to school, maybe your career before doing this.
Yeah. So I'm honored and surprised for you to have me on as a guest because I'm just a regular guy. There's nothing special about me. I'm not a Rhodes Scholar or I didn't go to Ivy League school. So any information that I could share or inspiration, happy to help.
Cool.
So I think we went to the same university, right? Vanguard.
Oh yeah, I did.
For 1 year.
I went there for 1 year.
Yeah, I went there for 1 year also.
Okay.
Before that, I went to a few community colleges. I grew up in Riverside.
Okay.
And my dream was to play in the NBA. So I was pretty good, but not quite good enough. So I always have that chip on my shoulder. I never got to accomplish my dream. So I kind of used that, like I said, as motivation for myself. My second dream was to be a director and producer.
Oh, cool.
So I went to the Los Angeles Film School, and I majored in producing and directing and screenwriting.
Wow.
And I worked in the entertainment industry in Hollywood for about 7 years as a producer, director, production assistant, and I also drove trucks, mostly working on commercials, also some short films and music videos. And that was from 2004 to 2011.
Okay.
And then I met my wife, and my first son was born. The hours were really, really long in the industry. Only if you work in the industry do you believe how long some of these hours are. 16, 17, 18-hour days, 2-3 weeks in a row. So that was right when my first son, Cassius, was learning how to walk. And I thought, these hours, although I love it, I love the people I'm working with, it's not conducive to being a good husband or father. So I thought, I got to do something different, even if it's working at Chipotle. I got to do something different. So luckily, my dad took me under his wing. He's been in lending for maybe 40 years now.
Wow.
So he taught me the ropes. I got my real estate license, got my loan officer license. I'm now a mortgage broker and real estate broker. So that was a transition from being in the entertainment industry to lending. And I like that too. But my wife really was encouraging me to open a business. And so it took her a few years, and I finally did.
Yeah, that's great, man. It's a crazy background. So when you worked in the entertainment industry, you said you were driving trucks. Would you do like where you follow along and while they're filming, you were driving those trucks?
Oh, no, that would be fun. Yeah.
Okay.
No, this was more like I would either drive the production vehicle or the camera vehicle.
Okay.
So it would be usually the day before the shoot. I would pick up, the camera dolly, all the production supplies like tables, chairs, tents, the generator, or I would pick up the camera equipment, the camera, the lenses, like that. So it's usually one full day of picking all that stuff up. I got to be the first one on set and then the last one to leave. Oh. So I didn't do that all the time, but I did drive trucks for a portion of the 7 years I was in Hollywood.
Yeah, I could see that where that would get a little tiring and kind of wear you out. And then at the end of the day, trying to spend time with your kids, it's always a hard juggle, right? Like, because you want to provide for them, but at the same time, when you're sitting there going, I never see them, then what's the money worth? Yeah. So cool. Well, definitely a diverse background. So how did you find the business that you ended up buying?
So, I was doing loans for about 10 years. And then when interest rates starting to go up, so did my income. Because 90% of my volume was refinances. Okay. So once rates started going up, basically no one wanted to refinance, and I felt like I didn't have a job. So I started thinking, okay, well, what else could I do to make this kind of money? And my wife, she'd been, like I said, encouraging me for years to get a business. So I didn't know the first thing about business. Mm-hmm. That's just, I'm more of like a a blue collar guy, So I started looking, BizBin, LoopNet, BizBuySell, and there's a few other ones to try to see, okay, what business do I think I could run? And like I said, I didn't know the first thing about business. I didn't know what ROI was or how to calculate cap rate or what a profit margin was. So I really was just start from like square one and did all the research I can. You can get a lot of information online nowadays, which is great, a lot of tutorials.
Yeah.
And also I had a lot of help from my parents and my stepdad, who's very business savvy. So any questions I had, he was always very patient and helpful and always gave me the best advice. So I started looking at literally every business, restaurants, delis, air conditioning repair, transportation, and then laundromats. So I was originally going to get a laundromat because I looked up
you could actually find one.
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the big things that people always say, hey, get yourself a laundromat, and then no one can ever find them. Or if they do, it's not often something you can finance because people aren't reporting all of the earnings. And
Right.
that's the challenge I get is I'd probably say once a month at least somebody says, hey, I found a laundromat, and I kind of laugh in the back of my head like, yeah, we're not going to be able to do this. And then I have one right now I'm working on that I think might actually be able to do, but they're buying it from a friend.
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving them the price that it actually should be sold at. And I think that's probably one of the challenges. So.
Yeah, because it's mostly cash, right? It's just
Correct.
coins. So they're going to try to not pay Uncle Sam everything they should.
Yeah.
But when I was researching businesses, I basically just looked, what are recession-proof businesses? Because I didn't like, although I didn't have a problem doing loans, what I didn't like was the government raising rates, and they're basically I felt like they're taking my job away from me. My attitude, my work ethic didn't change.
Yeah.
So I felt like it was totally out of my control. I just did not have a job anymore. So I wanted to get something that was more stable, reliable, and recession-proof.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things I looked up was laundromats, and it had something like a 95% success rate. But it sounds like so random when people would tell me, oh, you're going to buy business? What are you going to buy? Oh, I was thinking about buying a laundromat. It's just like, huh? Why? That's so weird and random. But it's very relatively passive because, the customers are going in there and doing most of the work. They're the ones, unless it's fluff and fold, they're the ones that are in there doing the washing and drying and all that. So because I'm so nervous about failing, there was probably a lot of paralysis by analysis where I would just like research so much. I even bought like a book, like how to like buy and sell laundromats. And I got hooked up with a broker, amazing guy. His name is Clay Barnett. And I met with him at a Denny's for like 3 hours.
Wow.
And I just picked his brain. So I feel like I know more about laundromats than anyone that has not owned a laundromat. But he took me to a few. And I was thinking about, buying one, but I didn't like, that I didn't own the land. I didn't like that if the landlord wanted to raise the rent, if the lease wasn't great, or maybe he just doesn't want a laundromat there anymore, that would be like out of a business.
Yeah. Makes sense. So you kept searching, kept looking at other things. I can tell you're fairly detailed and you like to know everything. I'm kind of like that as well. So I definitely respect it. If I do something or get into something new, I have to kind of like completely dive in and understand every little aspect of it. So I definitely get that. So you kept looking, and how'd you end up finding the listing that you end up buying?
So a friend of mine bought pickup and delivery FedEx routes, and he had some success with it. He bought his, I think, in 2019. So especially during the COVID years, everyone is getting things delivered.
Yeah. And
brick and mortar is kind of dying. And I started researching FedEx. And it's a Fortune 500 company. I think this year it was like 41 or 42. So, wow, it would be great to partner with that type of a corporation. So my buddy was telling me, yeah, you should do this. So I started a LoopNet, BizBuySell, BizBin, looking at all the listings. And because failure is not an option, I wanted to make sure I got the right one. And I wanted to make sure I know the right questions to ask and what I'm looking for. And again, I didn't know anything about it. So a lot of these brokers, I'm sure they probably have me on their, do not answer list now, because I was just bugging any listing that they had, give me the financials. I had to sign the NDAs, look at all the financials. And so I know like what I'm looking at. And luckily, I had my friend who had some FedEx routes to kind of guide me. Oh, this is how you decipher that. And also my mom and dad and my wife for encouragement, and my stepdad. I would send him the stuff, and he would give me his 2 cents. So I felt like pretty confident that the business I buy is going to be a good one. Can I run it successfully? We don't know yet.
Well,
but I'm going to get a good business.
I mean, you said it already, like 4 times failure is not an option.
Yeah,
so,
it's not exactly.
yeah, it's ended up working out. So you found that listing. What was it that you and I guess kind of your team liked about that listing?
So when I started researching the pickup and delivery, I saw that the profit margins were between like 10 and 25%.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also the line haul,
Mm-hmm.
which has a higher profit margin between, I think, 20 and 35%. But my friend was saying, oh, don't do line haul. Those are kind of scary with the big trucks. Normally, you have to get the pickup and delivery first, and then you graduate to line haul. So that kind of stuck with me. And then I was talking to one of the line haul contractors, and he said, oh, you don't have your Class A license? You're not going to be able to vibe with these drivers, get your Class A license. And he basically kind of shut me down and said I wouldn't be able to do it.
No, that's actually some great advice. And then maybe we can back up a little bit for the listeners to understand. So with FedEx, mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy how FedEx, they only have maybe 2,000 actual employees. Mm-hmm. Everything else is contracts.
Right.
And a lot of people don't understand. They don't know that. I mean, I feel like it's definitely gained a lot of traction over
mm-hmm.
the last 10 years. But you have the pickup and delivery, or a lot
mm-hmm.
of people just call them P&D,
mm-hmm.
where they're going and they're picking up and dropping off the package at your house or commercial. Mm-hmm. And then you have line haul, which are the big semi trucks. Yeah. And then that even kind of breaks down further, where they're going all the way across the country, or they're only doing, Best Buy, or they're only doing, a loop in California and coming back every night. So, mm-hmm. As you kind of break it down, there's different divisions, and each one kind of has its pros and cons, right? So with pickup and delivery, there was a time period where they were awesome and they were doing great. And line haul was always doing well. But the problem we kind of saw with line haul was when it started out, I would say when it kind of gained a little bit of traction, it was probably around 2013, 2014. Mm-hmm. And then once people realized that they could finance the routes, it went crazy. Mm-hmm. And the multiples for them just kept going up and up and up and up. But at least you had some advice and you had someone to kind of bounce them off of. Yeah. I definitely would not disagree with what your friend told you about trying to kind of get in with the drivers. Mm-hmm. That's one thing that I noticed doing them over the years, was keeping the drivers happy is probably the hardest part. Yeah. So I'm sure we'll get into that a little further, but I just want to try to get a little bit of context. So so you went, and I believe you went and worked on getting your license, right? Yeah,
I'm actually still taking classes. I have a class today to get my Class A license.
Cool.
But even before I did that, I drove for P&D.
Oh, okay.
Just when I was thinking about doing P&D, I wanted to know everything I could about it, kind of be like a day in the life of the driver. Yeah. So I did that, and it's hard work. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're driving the truck around all day, getting in and out of there maybe 150 times, and then you think your day is over, and you look at the back of the truck, and it's still half full of boxes. Oh. And I've heard of drivers on their first week just turning the engine off, leaving the cars in there, and taking an Uber back home and calling the contractors, hey, this job is not for me. Come get your truck. It's on the corner of,
Oh my gosh.
So with that, I think that's more of a job for those drivers, as to where I feel like professional truck drivers, you got to get your Class A license. They get paid a lot more. Right. So the turnover is not quite as high. Yeah. It's more of a career than just a job.
Exactly. Yeah. They typically just want a nice truck, and then some of them have different, goals about being home every night, or some are fine being on the road. And then obviously some work in teams. Yeah. I remember seeing, I had a client I worked with, probably 10 years ago, that built it up real large, in San Diego. And that was what he would tell me, is give him a new truck. And then he had a lot of like father-son teams, which was kind of cool, So, and then husband and wife teams, where they're spending time together. So you decided that P&D wasn't for you, and line haul kind of made more sense. Start work on your Class A license. So where'd you end up finding this specific listing at?
I don't remember if it was BizBin, or it may have been Biz by Sell. Okay. But I mean, I would get, after pretty much a full year of just, okay, what business do I want to do? Once I decided, okay, I want to do FedEx, I did make some offers on P&D, but it took me a few months, even when I decided that I want to do FedEx, to pick one. Okay. And I would get alerts Like anytime a new listing would get up, I would get an alert on my phone. And I would, like I said, I would bug the brokers, send me the NDA to sign, give me the financials. I want to see what it is.
Yeah.
And one popped up. It was for line haul. And I had kind of already said, I'm not sure about line haul, but it was for line haul. And I saw the numbers on it, and I made an offer within like that minute.
Oh, wow.
Like I was like, this is the one. I like knew. After looking for so long, I was like, this is one. This is it. I just knew it.
We get a lot of people that tell us that in the kind of what they call search funds or search world, you have people that's kind of their full-time job is searching for a business. And I feel like,
that's what I did. I didn't get paid for it though. But.
Yeah, there you go. So they, they'll keep looking and looking and looking. And sometimes they'll get to a point where they say like, okay, I'm willing to kind of settle on a couple of these things. And some of them will kind of get into that, start working on the deal, and then finally go, okay, what was I doing? I was just trying to, satisfy, my need, and I didn't want to keep searching all the time. So, luckily it worked out for you when you found it. So, do you remember what it was listed for?
$1 million.
Okay. And you offered?
Yeah, it was listed for $1 million, and I felt like that already was a pretty good deal.
Mm-hmm.
So even if I got it for $1 million, I felt like, okay, but you never, always want to try to get a little cheaper if you can.
Yeah.
And so many of the listings I felt were really overpriced.
Yeah, definitely.
So this one felt very fair. Like even if I got it at asking price, I feel like it's a win.
Cool.
So I offered 900, and we met like right in the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So still got a little bit off that works.
Yeah. And I lucked out too. My broker was fantastic, Marshall Pollock, and the sellers, amazing, really very helpful, very they were a husband and wife.
Okay.
That met while driving.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they were truck drivers.
Cool.
And then they got their first truck and they started expanding, and they still help me anytime I have any questions.
That's great.
They're the most amazing people. Yeah, I love them.
Yeah. So then, if I recall correctly, you didn't do a seller carry note.
Right.
So like, kind of jumping in and making an offer without mulling it over and spending a lot of time. Would you do that again? Like, do you have any advice for somebody that is kind of working on trying to put together their offer?
So, as soon as I saw the listing, I knew this is the one, and I know that I must have requested the financials before I made an offer, but
Okay.
I felt like it was like that day or the next day I did make an offer.
So you at least reviewed the stuff. You weren't just completely jumping in.
Yeah, I did. I did look at it, and I already kind of had an idea, just based on the revenue, because it's really difficult for them to hide or lie about the revenue,
Right.
Because that's a 1099 that comes straight from FedEx.
Yeah.
With some of the expenses, maybe you wouldn't want to show it, and also you can get really creative with the tax returns. In a way, it's a good thing. Because you could depreciate these vehicles.
Yeah.
So that was a trend that I saw with a lot of these tax returns, is that it looks like none of them are making any money. How are all these people in business and not making any money?
Yeah.
But if you know how to look at the tax returns, you can see, he's depreciating this and he's writing that off. So another kind of benefit of the business, I think, is that.
Yeah, exactly. So it ended up being that your offer worked, and you probably would do it the same way again if you saw something that made sense. So
Yeah.
Okay, so then from there you got your offer accepted. Then what'd you do?
I started doing my due diligence, getting the trucks inspected, looking at more financials, and I actually had another lender before your lender, and they put me through the ringer. This is not a lender that I chose; it's a lender that the broker chose. And the loan officer was a really good guy, actually, and it wasn't his money, so he's not the one that declined it. But I think it was like 3 or 4 months. I really felt, and I'm used to doing loans because I'm a loan officer myself.
Yeah.
And usually, between 3 to 6 weeks, we can get them closed. So I know this is, a different animal, but it was really feeling like, oh wow, this isn't probably. It feels like it might not happen. I was really having a lot of doubt. And then they ended up declining it because the reasons they gave me was, the first one was that I have no experience as a FedEx manager, but they knew that on day one.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was they didn't think that it made enough money to cover the debt service, but that's not true. It's just not.
Yeah. I think, probably some of the times that other lenders or even, you know, the lenders that you're with, everybody. And I think what's difficult for people to understand in the SBA world is that there's different lenders that want to do different things. And some of them love FedEx. Some of them hate them. Some of them are kind of on the fence, and they've got to really have a super strong, you know, buyer, or,
Right.
you know, they want to look for something key in that one deal. So maybe it just didn't fit perfectly into that box, and that happens from time to time. But you know, you didn't give up. You know, we were able to work through and see. If I recall correctly, I think we were fine. I think you actually put in a little bit more than what we would normally see. A lot of times people are just doing 10%. And I think you did like 14, 15.
Yeah,
I
think it was
right.
15%. And
Okay.
in my conspiracy theory about why the lender pulled the rug out from under me was that at that time, that's when the rates started going up. So maybe they just got a little spooked.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, we're seeing it big time right now. You know, and it's been what, 6 months or something since you did it, maybe longer. We're seeing right now a lot of lenders are really pulling back on business acquisitions. And I think what's happening is a lot of them got into the industry maybe 3 years ago, where normally they would just do commercial real estate, or maybe they just do little equipment loans.
I see.
They started getting into business acquisition, but rates were low for such a long time. And then also the government was giving a higher guarantee on the loan during COVID. So a lot of lenders that normally wouldn't do business acquisitions got into it. And then we had the rates all go up. So you almost doubled their interest rate. So these businesses that, you know, it worked at that point, but maybe just barely.
Yeah.
Once you go and double the rate, now they're all having trouble. So now all those lenders that said, oops, like we shouldn't have got into this, they're all pulling back. And it's been pretty wild to see just all these lenders calling me, just dumping stuff in our lap, because they know that's what I've always done. And so in a way, it was kind of nice because it was a little frustrating for kind of the, you know, old lenders that have been doing business acquisitions forever. And you get, you know, a little frustrated because I'm like, who's this lender? Like, what are they doing coming in? And now they're kind of starting to get out again. So it'll probably settle down and go back to, you know, kind of the normal 4 or 5 lenders that do it.
Yeah.
We'll be able to focus on it. So
You guys were really smooth.
Well,
and
thanks.
I was even asking the broker, why don't we go to these guys first? You would have saved me a lot of gray hair.
Yeah.
You know? And because you guys did it like, I felt like maybe a month and a half.
Yeah.
It was really felt very smooth.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think it
well-oiled
also helped
machine.
with you working in the lending industry because, you know, kind of when I saw that, what my expectation was that you were going to be quick to provide items because, you know, working in lending, we hate when people don't provide
You
stuff
can only
quickly.
go as fast as the
Yes.
borrower.
Yeah. People ask all the time, how long is this going to take? And I'm usually kind of put it back on them. Well, as fast as you'll go. So great. So, all right. So we got it down, got it approved. I know we built in some working capital for you.
Yeah.
So from there, what did you do as far as kind of really making sure the due diligence? You did mention that you looked at the trucks. Did you hire someone to do that?
Yeah. Volvo.
Okay.
Yeah. It's called Tech Equipment.
Okay.
It's near the shop where the trucks are. And they did like a full inspection, all of them. And the deal with the seller was anything that's wrong with it, you got to fix it.
Okay.
But it just so happens that the seller also has a mechanic shop.
Oh, nice.
So these trucks are babied.
Good.
Like every week, whenever they go on their run, 4, 5, 6 days, they come back. Every time they get back, full diagnostic, get serviced, top the fluids off, check the tires, everything. So, and that's FedEx's big thing is safety.
Right.
That's like their main thing. You can have these trucks, you know, falling apart on the road.
Yeah.
So they're all about.
Well, the
that's like
drivers
main
hate
thing,
that
safety.
too, right?
Of course.
So it's hard to get good drivers and keep them. And if you're making them go around in a truck that's constantly breaking down, it's coming out of their pocket. They're not making money. So
they won't stick around that long if the trucks keep breaking down.
Yeah, and as a lender, one of the big things we look at on these types of deals is how old the trucks are, how many miles they have. We're basically trying to determine at what point are you going to have to replace them, or you maybe rebuild the motor, and there's a big cost to that, right? So we look at it as capital expenditures every year. So we kind of will factor that in. And make sure that not only are you looking at, you know, the seller's discretionary earnings and how much you're going to make, but you have to keep in the back of your mind that there is maintenance costs. You may have to replace a truck. So what we don't want to see is 2 years, 3 years down the road, all of a sudden 3 or 4 of the trucks break at the same time, and you're going, what do? I got to buy all these, or finance them and try to figure it out. So it was good that the seller kept them up and kept them in shape. So it probably made it a little easier for you too.
And I did not get a spare. So I knew already going into the deal, hey, I got to get a spare soon.
Yeah.
In case one breaks down, that's lost revenue.
Right.
So I actually just got a new truck.
Oh, cool.
And for the other ones, like you're saying, yes, they need rebuilt engines, usually around 900,000 to 1.1 million. And that's about 20 grand and 3 weeks of work.
Right.
So, and I have one truck that is over 2 million miles, if you can believe that. That's like, wow, I've never heard of that. It's over 2 million miles, but it runs fine. Because it gets service all the time.
That's great.
Yeah.
They kept them up. So there wasn't really any kind of red flags during the due diligence or closing process?
You're always paranoid. Why are they selling it? What are they not telling me? What am I really getting myself into? But no, and I think again, because I did so much due diligence and asking so many questions. Yeah. To the brokers, to the sellers, to other contractors. And even before I bought these, I got a hold of a guy, his name is Bruce. He's one of the original, I guess there's only 5 original remaining FedEx contractors, like from the 80s.
Oh, wow.
So I got a hold of him and just picked his brain. And he was telling me, safety, take care of the drivers, take care of the trucks, and safety is like the number one thing. Yeah. So I made a business plan. Yeah. And I think it was pretty good. And I still try to refer to it. Okay, am I staying on track? Am I doing what I told myself I was going to do? And so far, so good.
Yeah. I mean, that's some good advice. You get a lot of people that are like, I have to do a business plan, or I have to do projections.
Oh, it was a pain in the butt.
Yeah. And I always tell people like, this is a good exercise for you. Yes, it's pain. There's sometimes where I'm like, they probably really don't need to because they know what they're doing. But at the end of the day, like you had mentioned, you were nervous because you hadn't owned a business before. But I'd almost kind of challenge you on that. Like look back and see everything you did was kind of on your own, right? You weren't, just working in corporate America. You never really had a job like that, right? So being a lender, you gotta kind of think for yourself. You have to be self-motivated. You're learning about financials and finance, working in the entertainment industry. It sounds like you did a lot of different things, but most of the time you were still doing stuff on your own, right? So you probably did set yourself up for it. You just didn't want to.
I tried to convince myself of everything you're saying. I tried to convince myself, I was a producer, so that's basically logistics, right? Oh, I drove a truck. Well, I'm a truck driver. So, but yeah, that's what I tried to. When I look in the mirror, you can do it, Yeah,
well, obviously your wife believed in you. She kept pushing you, so that always helps. So one of the things that I recall from doing this that did help us was the fact that you looked at the situation. You said, "What do I need to learn?" And you went and started, doing the courses to get your own, license. We don't get people like that. A lot of times we get people that are maybe a little arrogant with it, right? And they say, "Oh, I can do anything. Like, I'm not worried about it." And I think that really helped you out because it showed us that you're the type of individual that wants to get involved and really wants to learn something, can admit that they don't know something. So, it's good advice for people looking to buy. Don't ever be above what you're doing and try to really get involved. And I'm sure your drivers probably like that too, right?
I think so. I have a really good relationship with my drivers. And I really try to take care of them. And I told them on day one, hey, if you respect me, I'll respect you. If you work hard for me and have a good attitude, you will be compensated fairly. So yeah, I like my drivers.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what was the hardest part of the transaction looking back?
That's a good question. Finding the right business, I think for me was the toughest. And then closing the deal was also pretty tough. I mean, it's not, and you were saying maybe some buyers are arrogant or overconfident. Anytime I feel like, I got this, I learned something new. Yeah. Every day it's just, I feel like, wow, I really, whether it's something that needs to be fixed on the truck. I'm not a mechanic, so I was like, oh, wow, whether it's something with dispatch, whether it's, we can't take this road because there's ice, we got to take an alternate route. It's every day there's something I'm learning new, which is good. Yeah. Which is what I want. I wanted something that's challenging, and I want something that's fresh and just totally kind of different. So, not coming in overconfident at all. the opposite.
Yeah, but for the most part, like what you really were looking for was for some control and to be there for your kids. So
yeah,
you
exactly.
got that as well. Yeah, I mean, obviously there's always the challenge of still having to work with FedEx and making sure you're doing a good job for them, but there's a lot more of the variables you can control. So it made sense. So yeah, and I think if I remember correctly, at the end we were also waiting for FedEx to line up, and I think that was a little bit of a challenge, but it often is how they do things.
Yeah, it's like what comes first, me getting approval from FedEx or me getting approval from the lender. So it was really like we kept pushing the closing date, but ultimately ended up working out. But yeah, they're a $1 billion corporation, so they want to make sure that the contractor, everything's in order. And there's so much paperwork that I have to send them still. Every week I have to send them a mileage report, every month a monthly maintenance report, stuff on drivers, the cameras on the drivers, driver logs. It's really I work every day.
Yeah,
it's not 12 hours every day, but every day it's at least a few hours of paperwork or putting out this flyer. So
yeah, that's probably good for you though.
Yeah.
So are you happy you did it?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy I did it. Like I said, I like my drivers. I like my manager. I like dispatch. I'm enjoying it.
So once we closed and you took over, what was the hardest part of that?
My buddy that had bought his routes in 2019, he kind of gave me a blueprint. Okay, this is kind of what to expect. For the first 3-4 months, you're going to be in there like all day, every day, learning. And then after that, it's going to become a little bit more passive. So there wasn't really anything that was difficult about it because I knew what to expect. You get out of it what you put into it, So I go in there, not every day, but usually Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I go to inspect the trucks and talk to the mechanics, and dispatch. Usually the trucks get dispatched on those days, and I do payroll early in the week. And then towards Thursday, Friday, usually I have a little more downtime, but it's still some paperwork. And most weekends I have off. But there's always something that's going to pop up. Like on Thanksgiving at 3 a.m., I got a call from my driver. Oh. There was a problem with the truck when he was trying to leave with the trailer. So it took me a few hours to try to, resolve that. So there's always going to be issues like that. Is it stressful? Yeah, but I think most businesses are probably stressful.
Yeah.
And anytime I get really stressed, I try to put things in perspective and think about my kids.
Yeah.
It usually kind of, mellows me out.
Well, you probably, the more you do it, the more you get used to it, so you're obviously never going to stop learning, but, so what surprised you the most about the business after you took over?
When you think about, okay, it's just, I'm going to pick up this trailer from here, and I'm going to drop it off over there. It's like, when you really break it down, it's pretty simple, but it's very complex. It is actually very complex. So I think maybe the scope, the amount of deliveries that are going out, and also the regulations as far as the trucks have to be inspected and up to code. But I wouldn't... So far, not really any big surprises.
Okay.
Not really any big surprises.
Well, hopefully nothing's about to come up. So.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, I know even if you take care of the trucks and baby them, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And what they said, what I heard about this industry is it's 90% boredom and 10% terror.
Oh.
So wow. I feel like, yeah, that's true. So far, that's been correct.
Yeah, it'll wake you up, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Well, been some great information. I really appreciate it. I always ask 2 questions at the end. So first one is, do you have a mentor or have you ever had a mentor?
Yeah. Well, my parents, my mom and dad, and also my stepdad. As far as business, it's my stepdad. He and my wife. My wife is the one that's really been encouraging me, but my stepdad is the one, such a smart guy, such a caring and passionate, always with advice. And you would think that he would be like annoyed with me. Never. And all the random businesses I was sending him, I was going to buy a Jewish deli. I was going to buy, he would look at it and hook me. Oh, I know someone that used to have a Jewish deli. Oh, I know someone that has laundromats. So he would always kind of point me in the right direction. I don't think I would have been able to do it without him. And I wouldn't have, no.
Yeah, it's great to have somebody to rely on and fall back on.
100%. Yeah.
All right. So final question, what motivates you?
My wife and kids.
Cool.
Yeah.
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 So awesome. That's a great answer. So,
Yeah.
you know, you didn't make it to the NBA, but you know, you ended up still all right.
Yeah. Thank you.
You still playing basketball at all?
No.
No.
I go and shoot around every once in a while, but
Yeah.
it's been years since I played.
Yeah. It's hard when you take your foot off the gas.
Yeah. I'm too nervous to get injured at this point.
Cool. Well, it's great talking to you, and I look forward to hearing from you soon. Hopefully,
Okay.
you know, if you end up expanding or doing anything else,
Yeah.
you know, really appreciate your time today.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you for listening. We hope you found this podcast informative and helpful. Please don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. For more information, or if you'd like to discuss a transaction, please go to www.jaredwjohnson.com.